Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man could have changed everything in the Marvel Universe. Back in 2012, there were real talks about bringing his Spider-Man into the Avengers world. Oscorp almost appeared next to Stark Tower, hinting that Garfield's Peter Parker lived in the same New York as Iron Man and Captain America. If that deal had gone through, the MCU we know today would look completely different. His friendship with Steve Rogers, his rivalry and bond with Tony Stark, even the battles of Civil War and Infinity War would carry new meaning. This is the untold story of how Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man could have transformed the entire MCU forever. In 2012, two of the biggest superhero movies ever made were about to hit theaters. On one side, Marvel Studios was assembling its heroes for the Avengers.
To bring together a group of remarkable people. So when we needed them.
On the other, Sony was rebooting Spider-Man with The Amazing Spider-Man starring Andrew Garfield.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. Parker.
Not much to tell, really.
Peter lives with his aunt and uncle.
Did you catch that spider guy yet?
No, but we will. This guy wears a...
What most fans don't know is that there was almost a secret plan to connect the two worlds. Behind closed doors, Marvel and Sony actually discussed placing the Oscorp Tower from The Amazing Spider-Man into the New York skyline of the Avengers. It would have been small, just another skyscraper among the city lights, but it would have meant everything. That one building would have quietly confirmed that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man existed in the same world as Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor. Concept artists at Sony reportedly sent Marvel the 3D model of Oscorp Tower. Everyone loved it. The only problem was timing. The Avengers had already finished most of its digital effects work, and Marvel's VFX team didn't have enough time to re-render the city skyline. The crossover was right there, within reach, but slipped away because of a technical deadline. If that tower had made it into the movie, the MCU might look completely different today. Garfield's Spider-Man could have been swinging through Manhattan while the Chitauri invaded. Maybe Tony Stark would have been the one tracking him down later, seeing this mysterious masked kid saving people on the same streets. It wasn't just a random Easter egg that got cut. It was a real chance to merge two cinematic worlds years before Tom Holland ever showed up. That single missed moment changed everything. After the Oscorp Tower nearly united two cinematic worlds, things would have taken a completely new turn for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. In this alternate timeline, Peter Parker wouldn't have been scouted by Tony Stark at all. Instead, his first connection to the MCU would come through S.H.I.E.L.D, and more importantly, through Steve Rogers. At this point in his life, Peter is a very different kind of hero. He's still haunted by Gwen Stacy's death, still carrying the guilt that he couldn't save her. Every night he swings through the city trying to make it right, but the spark that once drove him is dimming. So when S.H.I.E.L.D. begins investigating strange energy readings and advanced tech tied to Oscorp, they stumble upon a young man who's already doing their job protecting people, stopping crime, and expecting nothing in return. Steve Rogers sees that. He's been in Peter's shoes before, a hero trying to do the right thing in a world that doesn't always reward it. That's why S.H.I.E.L.D. sends him, not Tony, to make contact. Steve doesn't talk about suits or tech. He talks about courage, sacrifice, and what it means to keep fighting even when you've lost everything. This version of Spider-Man would grow under values, not inventions. Instead of becoming Iron Man's apprentice, Peter becomes Captain America's ally. Their relationship would feel more like a soldier and a street hero, learning to respect each other's strengths. From there, subtle appearances could happen, Peter saving civilians during the Winter Soldier, or being spotted by S.H.I.E.L.D. surveillance in Age of Ultron. Each time, he earns more trust, not by gadgets, but by heart. This path would shape Garfield's Spider-Man into a symbol of resilience and hope, molded by loss, but guided by purpose. By the time the Sokovia Accords divide the Avengers, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man has already seen what loss and responsibility can do to a person. He's older now, more experienced, and carries the weight of Gwen Stacy's death like a scar that never fades. When the world starts debating whether heroes should be controlled by governments, Peter finds himself standing between two men he deeply respects, Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. Steve was the first person who believed in him. He showed Peter that heroism comes from conviction, not from power or politics. But Tony represents something Peter has been chasing since Gwen's death: accountability. A way to make sure that no one else gets hurt because of his mistakes. Both sides make sense to him, and that's exactly what makes the conflict tear him apart. When the battle begins, Peter joins Tony's side, convinced that some form of control might prevent another tragedy. Tony even designs a new suit for him, packed with smart lenses and upgraded web shooters. At first, it feels like he's finally part of something bigger, a real Avenger. But when the airport fight explodes into chaos, Peter's confidence starts to crumble. He sees heroes he admires hurting each other, cities getting torn apart, and all the good intentions turning into destruction. Then his suit starts to fail. In that silence, he realizes what Steve had tried to teach him. Being a hero is about doing what's right, not what's convenient. Peter rips off the damaged tech and rushes to help Steve's team, not as Iron Man's recruit, but as Spider-Man on his own terms. That moment defines him, not as a sidekick, but as a true hero who chooses his heart over anyone's orders. After the events of the Civil War, Peter Parker is no longer the same hero who started out swinging through New York with wide-eyed hope. The battle between heroes changed him. When Tony Stark's advanced suit failed during the fight, it wasn't just a malfunction, it was a wake-up call. Peter realized that relying on someone else's technology meant giving up part of what made him Spider-Man in the first place. From the very beginning, Garfield's Spider-Man was a creator. His first Amazing Spider-Man suit and web shooters were built by his own hands. They weren't flashy, but they worked because they came from his mind. So when Tony offered him a high-tech upgrade before the Civil War, it felt like recognition. For a moment, Peter thought he had found a mentor who truly believed in him. But when the suit failed mid-battle, the message became painfully clear. The system shut down, the lenses went dark, the web shooters jammed. Suddenly, Peter had nothing but his instincts and his own powers. No AI, no targeting system, no backup. He had to fight using nothing but his reflexes, agility, and spider sense. That was when he remembered why he became Spider-Man in the first place. It wasn't about the gadgets, it was about responsibility and heart. After the battle, Peter doesn't go back to Tony for repairs. Instead, he returns to his small apartment, surrounded by Oscorp blueprints, old photos of Gwen, and scraps of damaged tech. Slowly, he designs his own new suit, one that carries both his intellect and his emotion. This marks a powerful transformation. He starts out dependent, loses everything, and rebuilds from the ground up. His new suit doesn't just protect him. It symbolizes growth, maturity, and the moment Peter Parker truly becomes his own hero. Gwen Stacy's death remains one of the most defining moments in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man story. It's the moment that breaks him and shapes everything that comes after. In this alternate MCU timeline, that tragedy doesn't fade into the background. It becomes the emotional heartbeat of Peter Parker's journey. After the events of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Peter carries an unbearable weight of guilt. Every rescue, every mission, every late-night patrol is his way of making up for the one person he couldn't save. Gwen isn't just a memory of lost love. She's his compass, the voice in his mind reminding him why he does what he does. Her loss gives meaning to his every decision, and that emotional anchor sets Garfield's version apart from any other Spider-Man we've seen. When MJ eventually enters the story, her role feels different from what fans expect. She isn't the quirky classmate or the girl he instantly falls for. She's a tech-savvy ally, someone who helps Peter track Oscorp data, decode alien tech, and dig into S.H.I.E.L.D. secrets. At first, she's just another partner in his mission, but over time, a bond starts to grow not from romance, but from trust and understanding. Peter resists falling in love again because Gwen's memory still lingers. He doesn't want to replace her, and that makes his dynamic with MJ more genuine and mature. Their connection unfolds slowly, filled with quiet moments, shared danger, and emotional honesty. It's not a typical comic book romance. It's a story about healing, forgiveness, and learning to open up again. Through all of this, Gwen's presence is never lost. She's the silent force guiding his choices, the reason he keeps fighting, and the reminder that being Spider-Man means carrying both love and loss. During the Garfield era, there were hints of a Sinister 6 movie and a clone Saga. In this alternate MCU timeline, those ideas could have finally come to life. After the events of Civil War, Peter has begun finding his place in a world filled with gods, soldiers, and geniuses. But even as he adjusts, something darker brews behind the scenes. Oscorp's old research, long abandoned after Norman Osborn's downfall, is revived by a scientist named Miles Warren. He becomes obsessed with cloning and genetic perfection, and his experiments take a personal turn when he uses Gwen Stacy's DNA. This leads to one of Peter's most emotional storylines yet. The Jackal claims he can bring Gwen back, but Peter knows better. The woman standing in front of him might look and sound like Gwen, but she is not the same person he lost. The line between science and morality blurs, forcing Peter to face the truth that some things are meant to stay in the past. Meanwhile, Oscorp's old files begin leaking into the hands of criminals and mercenaries, giving rise to a terrifying alliance, the Sinister Six. Doc Ock returns, brilliant yet broken. Vulture seeks revenge after losing his tech empire. Mysterio manipulates reality itself to make the world doubt Spider-Man. Kraven the Hunter arrives in New York, determined to take down the most dangerous prey. Rhino and Scorpion complete the circle, each carrying their own grudges against Spider-Man. Their motives differ, but their hatred unites them. Together, they target not just Peter, but everything he stands for. for. This battle would not be about saving the universe, but saving himself, his city, and the people he loves. In this version of the MCU, Garfield's Spider-Man finally gets the villains and emotional depth his story deserved. The Clone Saga becomes his personal nightmare, and the Sinister Six becomes his greatest trial. Through it all, Peter learns that being a hero is not about erasing pain, it is about carrying it and still choosing to stand up every single time. If Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man had been part of the MCU, the events of Infinity War would have carried a completely different weight. By this point, Peter has already lived through unimaginable pain. He lost Gwen, battled the Sinister Six, and learned that even heroes can't save everyone. So when he joins the Avengers to face Thanos, he isn't the excited new recruit we remember. He's quieter, more focused, and haunted by everything he's already lost. Tony Stark immediately senses it. Their bond isn't just mentor and student anymore. It's two men who understand what it means to carry guilt and keep fighting anyway. Tony admires Peter's resilience, while Peter finally finds someone who believes in him without trying to replace him. That's why, when the snap happens, the moment hits harder than ever. As Peter begins to disintegrate, there's no panic in his eyes, just heartbreak. He tells Tony he's sorry, not because he's scared, but because he feels like he's failing someone again. Tony tries to hold him, promising he'll fix it, but the dust slips through his fingers. It's a moment that would shatter Tony completely. Through Endgame, that guilt drives Tony's every move. He isn't just fighting to undo Thanos' snap, he's fighting to keep his promise to Peter. Every decision, every sacrifice becomes about bringing that one kid home. And when Peter finally returns during the final battle, their reunion means everything. The relief, the pride, the pain, it's all there in a single embrace. If Garfield's Spider-Man had been part of Infinity War and Endgame, those movies wouldn't just be about saving the universe. They'd be about redemption, second chances, and the bond between two heroes who saved each other in different ways. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man always felt like the hero who never got to finish his story. When The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was canceled, fans were left hanging. There was no real closure, just an open wound in the Spider-Verse. Years later, when Garfield returned in No Way Home, it wasn't just a fun surprise. It was emotional. It reminded everyone how much they loved his version and how much heart he brought to the role. In this alternate MCU timeline, he wouldn't just make a short comeback. He would officially become part of the Avengers, continue his journey, and finally get the ending he deserved. Fans would see his Spider-Man grow, find hope again, and truly move forward. This isn't only about superheroes. It's about second chances, redemption, and how stories we love stay with us. If you enjoyed this what-if story, don't forget to subscribe for more.